Good afternoon, guys. Happy Monday. It's Monday. It's the start of a fresh week. However you're feeling about today, welcome to Gunner Talk with me, Si, aka the Mancunian. Just a quick one. Just the love and support from you guys. After I've started asking, for a bit of support from you. A lot of you. I'm a pretty forward guy, but not when it comes to this sort of stuff. I don't like begging and asking for help. But I have done, and some of you, the response has been absolutely great. It is just one click of the button, guys, to thumbs up or subscribe or, to retweet on Twitter and, get your questions in or get people involved that you think might want to come on next season and help me answer them. Wonderful. I'm going to keep the sort of setup the same as the last one because I don't have a ton at the minute, Arsenal-wise, at the forefront of my mind. There's probably quite a lot going on at the back, but at the front, there's nothing really there. So I've opened up the floor again to your guys' questions. So I'm just going to rattle on with getting through these as quick and as painlessly as I possibly can. Not saying that there might not be a few bumps in the road along the way, but here we go. First one, kits and signings. When's the release date for the kits, and does it have any influence on signings? Well, going off what I've seen and what I know is our deal with Puma finishes on the 30th of this month. So I'm pretty sure that the new home kit will get and possibly the away will get shown out and rolled out for the 1st of July. And then I'm pretty sure from what I've read, the third kit I think gets released while we're on our pre-season tour in America. So that's when the kits will be out. And my God, we've just got another glimpse again of those kits this season, and I say magnifique. They are a thing of beauty, aren't they? It makes you really look at what Puma have been doing and who's been designing those kits for the last few. They've been awful. I'm not someone that buys a lot of kits anyway. I just don't really, but I'll definitely be purchasing a few of these latest ones because they're lovely, and it's a real. I saw somebody yesterday saying, how basic are they? But a lot of the time, guys, less is more. And I like that sort of retro look. I said it a few weeks back. I hate the phrase, but hipster. Sort of nod to the past, going down that route rather than them being a bit fancy and modern. I like that really sort of basic look. And I dress a lot like that in my own life, to be honest. I'm not for patterns and things. I'm for just plain. But I dress a bit like Homer Simpson, just white shirts, blue pants, black shoes, and that's it. I just have 300 of those outfits and nothing else. So I really like it. I don't think I've ever been this excited to see a kit, to be honest. Not that I could think of the other night when I was really thinking about it. I thought I'm actually excited to buy a kit, and I don't remember. I think the last time I felt like that was about 7, and I begged my mum to get me the full goalkeeper kit just because I really loved Seaman at the time. God, that sounds weird. As a kid, I really loved Seaman. My dad didn't ever touch me. I'm just going to say that right now. That's not the reason why him and my mum got divorced. I really loved David in between the sticks. And that's the last time I can really honestly think that I really wanted and desired especially an Arsenal kit. It feels nice to feel like that, and a reason to be positive. So that's that one. Next one. That came in is Freddie being groomed to replace Unai. I don't know with that one. Not in the short term. I think he has been brought in because of this. What Raul said about we're going to look internally into the youth setup for replacements before we look externally. So obviously Freddie will be a great. As I've said, Unai's got his right hand Juan. And now he's got his left hand Lundberg. So I do think he has come in just to be another monkey on his shoulder and, somebody to help guide him and give him advice on the youth setup and who's ready, who's not, who can fill in, who can, adapt and play certain different roles. Because obviously he's got a much better idea of the under-23 and the youth setup as a whole than Unai probably pays attention to, because that man's certainly got bigger fish to fry at the moment, a lot more on his plate than worrying about the youth setup. So I think in the short term he has come in just to be an advisor, sort of like I say, his left hand Lundberg, and that it worried me when Unai came out and made those comments about it's the first time in his career he's not felt under any pressure, and that terrifies me because I think that's a massive problem at the club. drew a line under saying with the squad, how many players in our first team and in our squad are under genuine pressure for the positions, and that helps create an atmosphere of sort of, well, I'm doing enough, no one's striving for more, because you're not being, you're not neck and necking with somebody else for one position. So in that aspect, I think it's great, because although it's not, well, we're bringing him in and, if things don't go well for you, we will replace you with Freddie. I think there is a subtle underlining bit of that is, here's a guy who does know the club well. Fans would definitely be behind, a lot like the Solskjaer, like I drew on the other week when I was talking about Freddie. Fans would all instantly feel an affinity towards him and be much more willing to give him a chance based on his past at the club. And it does sort of put that subtle pressure on him a little bit of, this guy maybe is being groomed a little bit to take my spot. Although I don't think that's in the immediate future, but Unai is only on a 2-year deal, and worst case scenario, things did go very tits up this year, and it was obvious by Christmas we weren't going to achieve whatever our goals might be this year, which none of us quite know. Well, I'm sure a lot are assuming it's just top 4 again and trying to win the Europa League. And I personally believe we should be just coming down from that one, depending on what personnel goes in and out of the club. If by Christmas it looks like we're not achieving any of those, like I say, he's on a short-term deal, so it wouldn't kill us financially to push Unai out the door and get rid of him, compensation-wise. And then you get Freddie just to step in as an interim, caretaker coach till the end of the season, because we all know from past, not so much at Arsenal but other clubs, how hard it is to get a top-level manager in mid-season. And especially ones, you don't come across many top bosses that aren't in a job, so getting them to leave their current project to come to ours mid-season is near impossible, unless the money's massive or the project's really appealing, and I'm not sure ours is at the moment. So it's a sort of bit of an up in the air one. I do think there is a bit of an underlying move there for potential for him to become boss and grooming him as one, but in the short term, no, I think it's just more of an advisory thing. Third one. Why do you guys do this to me? I'm sure somebody just wanted to see me have like a DT level explosion here, but how did I feel Xhaka got on against England in the third place playoff in the European tournament? Well, for a start, this European tournament, I think it is much better than completely pointless friendlies that you go into the arse end of nowhere playing not particularly good teams, and you don't really gain anything from it, you don't really learn anything from it. Whereas with this, you're playing much more high level competition. It gives you a real chance to see where you're at as a squad. But that game was drier than Gandhi's flip flop, wasn't it, to watch? I'm sure from a neutral point of view as well as an Englishman or a Swissman's point of view. And then it was a dry arse game, and then extra time. What that's about? Why it didn't just go straight to penalties? And a third place playoff. Why? And then I saw Southgate had been upset that they hadn't had some sort of ceremony for the awards. I mean, really? I've not got a lot of time for that guy, but that's for maybe another England-based GunnerTalk, an England talk, which I'm not looking to do. But yeah, getting back to it, Xhaka, it tickled me. My mate that I was watching the game with, who's a fellow Gooner, and he said to me about Xhaka, he said, man, that guy is slower than getting on the internet in the 90s, and he killed me with it. He just creased me in half. I just couldn't stop laughing, and then I think I'm going to find it really hard now to sort of watch Xhaka play in the first team, especially for us, and not sort of hear that noise of anytime he touches the ball or turns or runs, which I'm not going to be pleased about, 3 or 4 games in, but he was poor. He was poor. I had a bit of a dig at somebody yesterday that put up a load of stats, and what makes me laugh when people do this in vehement support of somebody like him that really doesn't deserve it. I want him to turn out to be good, but let's look at the facts. He's not very good. He's good at one thing, which is knocking the ball about nicely under zero pressure, and that's the only good facet to his game. He hasn't got any other real good, strong qualities. Somebody raised to me, he's got a really wicked left foot. Where's the proof in that? You know, I drew on it this morning with somebody. The myth that he's good at shooting from outside the box is the same as people saying that Roberto Carlos was really good at free kicks, which is, no, he scored the odd worldie, but it's 1 in every 100, and Xhaka's the exact same. I think you could let him take dead balls from the edge of the box in training, and he wouldn't hit the back of the net with 80% of them, and that's just based on what I've seen with my eyes with his shooting. Yes, he's scored a couple of screamers, but they're very few and far between. And the rest of the time, he looks like a kid in Sunday League football when you just panic and shoot. You know, the one in the Europa League final that hit the bar with his right foot. Somebody said to me, "What a great shot! Look at it. Go back and look at the technique in that shot. That is a proper close your eyes, hit and hope with your bad foot." You know, and someone who went for many of those and that turned out just like his, that, you know, you're more likely to hit someone in the face in row Z than hit the back of the net. Yeah, I can't buy into that he's good at shooting. I really can't. Yeah, and just getting back to these stats, you know, let's see it. What people do with that is they go, right, I want to prove to people that don't think he's very good like me that he is really good. So what they do is they go through all the stats and put together all the ones that make him, you know, give him a bit of a glowing reference. Whereas all they do to me is I just look at him and go, well, now you've put up those ones, I want to go and find out all the other ones that show that he isn't particularly good. And when I looked at those, it's the same thing, guys, you get from him every, you know, yes, he is maybe, you know, I'm sure a lot of you are of the opinion this year that he's improved, but he's been at the club for 3 years. You know, he's 26. A lot more of you are quite happy to jump on Guendouzi's back, who's 19 coming from French League 2. It's, you know, just turned 20. And you've hammered him for mistakes, but you let someone like Xhaka get a free ride, and I know which one I'm much more likely to, you know, be poisonous towards, and it ain't Guendo. It ain't Guendo for me. You know, and then somebody said to me this morning, well, he can improve on things, not the things I need him to improve on, which is he's got no pace, and that's what our midfield really struggles from. His legs really struggles from it. He's not. That's not going to come from out of nowhere. He's not going to suddenly wake up and be like Usain Bolt. He can't improve that, so that's a big problem for me. His mentality. I think he's up for the fight, but like I said in my video the other day, I just don't know how, if he hasn't got the abilities to put that down on the pitch. I can't bring into question the fact that under no pressure he can knock the ball about well, and he's up for the fight, but he can't actually do anything with that. You know, and it was more of the same old for me watching him the other night. It was a tough game, because it was, like I say, it was a rubbish game to watch, really boring, and everyone was pretty shit, to be honest. Trent Arnold was the only one that you were watching going, this guy's good, and I'm learning something from watching this, or it's backing up what I felt about him. Everyone else was a 4 out of 10 for me. You know, so I'm not going to hound Xhaka out, you know, purely just him, because I think he was one of many that were poor, but he just was the more of the same from him, just more of the same, just, you know, like I say, under no pressure he can just guide a game and he can knock it about nice, but then when it comes down to it and he's under a bit of pressure, or the other team are on the counter-attack, he is the invisible man. And like I say, these are things that his temperament, his ability to tackle, his positional sense when we're being counter-attacked are non-existent for me. He doesn't have any of those qualities, not even a modicum of them. And you know, someone said, well, he can improve those. Well, if he could improve them, why hasn't he done it over the last 3 years? I'll tell you why, because he's just not very good. He's at his ceiling. He is as good as he is going to get, because he hasn't got loads of facets to his game that he can improve. He's just got one, and he can just do that one thing well, for most of you, and I don't think he does that particularly well, because it gets blinded by all the other things he does really poorly. So he wasn't good for me, guys, and it just added more substance to my case that he's someone that's got to go for me if we actually want to progress as a side. And like I say, just my mate saying that he's slower than joining the internet in the 90s. It's slower than a 90s modem, with these words. I just couldn't sum him up any better. The next one that somebody said was, over the last few years we've lost Ramsey, Wiltshire, Cazorla, Sanchez, predominantly ball carriers. Does it worry you that we haven't replaced them, and does that coincide with what you think is a big problem in the side? Yes, because I have been saying for ages we can go out and change our defence, but until we do something with that midfield three of Ozil, Xhaka and Torreira, and get a genuine box-to-box in there, I think we could cope with Torreira and Ozil, but Xhaka we can't cope with. And if that midfield three stays the same next year, we're not going to improve. We're not, and that's just my personal opinion, and that's where we need to add some legs. Maybe Willock can do it, maybe Iwobi, and that's what makes me feel sick about this team is Iwobi is our ball carrier. How frightening a prospect is that? Going forward as a club, we've got one real ball carrier, and it's Alex Iwobi. Not to bag on him, but that's not good signs, is it, guys? It's really not, and it's no reason for encouragement whatsoever. And it is a massive problem for me. People that are comfortable on the ball in tight spaces, quick feet, and can get up and down the pitch all day and night. And also do what Xhaka does. I don't think that's that hard to find, and we don't have it at the club. Like I say, unless Willock or Ainsley steps up or Iwobi gets moved to the middle of the park, I think it's a massive problem. And like I've kept saying, I think it's as big a problem as our defence. We've got Torreira running around like a blue arse fly trying to do all the defensive work, and if we just had, sort of a free, and we had sort of Torreira deep, someone in the middle going up and down between the two, and ozil up top, I think we'd be alright. But if it stays the way it is, I've not got a real amount of optimism for next year, and I do think that's a big problem. Next one, players coming in or out realistically in this squad that's left, who goes. So I had a bit of a look at it, and I've done a few projections of signings that I want that realistically could happen, and how we'd look, integrating youth and then youthful signings for the future of the club, because that's what I think we need. Is it, as I said the other day, a real control alt delete and a total reset of the squad, because I think if we just add one or two, we're just going to go backwards again. I don't think it's enough, and then the year after, going off age, we'd need another 2 or 3 again, and it's just going to keep that. We're just peddling that short cycle again rather than looking at a long-term projection. For me, is how we are actually going to get back as a relevant top 4 side. But I took off my want hat and I looked at it realistically. And you see that Czech, Lichy, Rambo, and Welbs have gone. In the players that released, and then what I thought was interesting in that list of released players that a lot of you might not have looked at is that Nacho wasn't on it. So if we've not released him, we must have given him a 1-year extension. So that now does say to me, if one of those two is going to go, as much as I prefer it to be Nacho, it probably is going to be Kolasinac if we bring in a left back. But then I looked at the rest of the team and I thought, well, Ospina's going to go. Jenko, depending on what we do at right back, maybe he stays. He's got time on his contract. He's not someone that bring in a lot of money. So do we keep him as backup still until Hector's back fit? God, I just don't know. Centre backs, as much as I'd like Mustafi and Cos gone, like I said the other day, it wouldn't shock me if they were still here, and I could easily see them being part of our centre back setup next year, which is frightening. But I'm trying to be as realistic as possible. So Ospina, Jenko, and then I'd love to see the back of Xhaka, possibly Mickey and Ozil, and I'm sure a lot of you probably feel that way about Iwobi. But looking realistically at forward of the defence, El Neni. Yeah, that's it. Ospina, Jenko, El Neni. Really, hand on heart, realistic. What more I see leaving apart from the 4 I just mentioned. That's it. That is what I definitely expect to see leave. And then the others are more wants than being realistic. And then I'd be sort of happy if we brought in a centre back, a box to box mid, a winger, and maybe 2 young players for the future. So I just revisited those players and I looked at what minimum will probably happen. So Czech and Ospina gone. Emmy's going to step up as number 2. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Can't wait to see that. That's something I'm quite excited about for next year. And then probably Iliev as number 3. Jenko and Lichy gone, and I'm not so sure we'll bring in a right back. So Hector coming back, and then I'm getting trapped between Ainsley, Maitland-Niles, and Mainley. Maybe Ainsley and Callum Chambers are asked to just do the job between them until he comes back. El Neni going, so I see us replacing him with a box to box. Although I'd like it to be him and Jackie getting replaced for a box to box, and maybe one other. Rambo going. I think maybe that will be done internally, where it'll be Ainsley, Maitland-Niles, Willock, or possibly Iwobi to take his spot. And then Welbs is going, possibly Carrasco, the way things are looking at the moment. So that's really what I see happening, guys, really realistically. And it's quite depressing, but the club haven't given me any reason. Last few seasons, they've not given me much reason to feel any differently. I do feel quite optimistic, but until I actually see proof of it, This is how I'm going to look at it. You know, and I don't want. I'm not someone who likes getting my hopes up. You know, to then feel let down at the end of it. I'm someone who likes to look at things really negatively, and anything above that's a bonus. So that's the minimum I'd expect, and anything above that I'll be happy with. And if that's it, I'll be happy with that as well. I'll just have to suck it up and take it on the chin, like I'm sure many of us will. Next one, the £40 million budget. How much do I buy into this? Sorry guys, getting a little bit dry there. I don't buy into it. I don't think that's true at all. I think we've got more money than that. Without being realistic and thinking we've got some sort of £500 million war chest, I do believe we've got more than 40 million. But what I thought about is, what do you want the club to come out and say? Now I know obviously personally as fans we want the club to, as soon as it starts the transfer window, for him to go, right, we've got 500 million to whiz up the wall, you know, on new signings and a new squad. But how does that actually benefit us? Does it? Because then we just get overcharged for players. You know, it's like playing poker. You know, if you've got two aces, you know, you're sat on two aces, you're not going to tell everybody at the table you've got two aces, have you? You keep your cards close to your chest. So although I don't believe this 40 million budget thing, I'm happy to hear that. Because now, you know, when we approach players and it looks this way when we're trying to, you know, the rumours about deals at the minute, is that, you know, if we're going to a club and saying, right, well, we're going to pay you €5 million for the guy, they're not going to come back to us and say, well, it's €50 million, because from the rumours, they know we haven't got that. So I think it's quite a shrewd move to be underplaying our hand rather than overplaying it and being a bit brash and confident. And, you know, we'll just come and take your players whether you like it or not. I prefer this style of doing things. And we've always been a bit cloak and dagger with this sort of stuff. So I think you should look at it positively, guys, rather than a negative. You know, because a lot of it is just based on what some certain journals have said. There's no one from the club has come out and said we've got a 40 million budget, so why are you believing it? If I go and come out and tell you we've got a 500 million budget, you won't believe me, and I'm just as credible as most of these guys. So just relax yourself on that one, because I think, like I just made on my previous point, I think it's better to be, you think we've got 40 million, so if we go out and spend 100, you're going to be delighted, aren't you? What would be the point in thinking we've got 100 million, we go out and spend 40, you're going to be depressed as fuck. So I'm more than happy for the club to be doing it like this, and I do think we'll spend more than 40 million. It's a no-brainer, and I'm willing to stake you know, everything I've got on that. Next one. Where are we up to? Does Carrasco going to China make him questionable as a player? Not for me. I think if you just look at it in real layman's terms, really basically, I think you'd have to question his mentality and his ambition as a player. You know, to go at 24 to China, you know, when he's at a club like Atletico Madrid, you probably go, well, the money grabbing bastard, you know, you grabbing bastard. But when you actually look at it and you dig a bit deeper and you look at that deal that they did with two players going there and the business between Atletico and that club, I think he was a bit of a lamb for the slaughter. I think they sort of said, come on mate, take one for the team here, you're 24, you know, you can go over there, you'll play a lot, you know, it'll put you in the eye for the World Cup squad, you know, getting regular game time, that we can't guarantee you here. You're going to earn, you know, 20 million quid while you're over there for a year, and when you come back you've still got all your career to still prove yourself. So I don't think it really brings him into question at all, and you can see by him talking about how eager he is to come back to Europe. That's his 1 year done, you know, and he's set himself up for life. What a lot of you don't think about is football, although they make a lot of money, it's a short career and it can end like that. You know, he could be going down in the morning for his ready break and snap his legs, that's it, it's over, and then he's got whatever he's put to one side. You know, so this has set his family up for life, so you can't blame the guy for that, because if I was in the same situation, I'd do the exact same. You can't turn down offers like that, it's very hard, and I think a lot of you talk from a position where you'll never get made an offer like that, so you can't really comment. You know, but a lot of you play the lottery. Well, what do you do that for? It's for money. You know, and a lot of you wouldn't return back to your normal, you know, 20-30 grand a year jobs if you won the lottery, would you? So you've got to look at it with a bit of perspective from their eyes rather than your own, because you're not going to judge it fairly. And you know, I looked at it, like I say, I always like to look at things from the other side, away from the obvious, is that if he had stayed at Atletico Madrid and had the season of his life, we wouldn't be able to sign him because he'd be way out of our price range. So this could benefit us massively, because we can get a player who's quality for what sounds like, you know, not a huge amount of money and half what I'd say he's worth. So I'm quite delighted with it that he chose to go over there. It's took the limelight off him a little bit. Probably made him hungrier to come back rather than, you know, dossing around at Atletico. So I think it's going to work in our favour massively if we get him in. And that's the way I'm looking at it. Next one, captains, 5 captains. Where do I see this going next year? I don't want to see this 5 captain bollocks. I think that was maybe a first season thing because he just doesn't know the personnel at the club and who he could really trust to nail it down to a couple. And then it didn't help that, you know, our club captain constantly injured and not a part of it, so then you need another one, and then that's probably someone that's getting injured, so then you need another one. So I think he just went, right, I'll have 5 and then I'll whittle it down from that. And you know, we've lost a few of those now in Rambo going and Czech going, so it leaves him with Koz, xhaka and Ozil. And I wouldn't have, I think Koz will probably still be here next year unless he really pushes to leave, so he'd be the obvious choice. I don't think he deserves for it to be taken off him. And then somebody, then he, you know, went further to say, well, who would you have as your 5 captains? This brought up an entirely different thought process for me. Is that I'm struggling, guys. You know, who are the leaders in this squad? You know, I raised it on a video the other week. You know, if you look at characters in the dressing room, Rambo was a big one, you know, that people respected. Czech was a big one that people respected. You know, Koz is one that's been respected. You know, even Welbs, I'm sure, was a great guy to have in and around the dressing room. He's always struck me as a nice guy, you know, and someone that you can have a bit of a laugh with. So we've lost some big personalities, and I think we're going to have to bring some back in. You know, obviously we got a couple in Laka and Oba, you know, and obviously Hector's a big personality. But there's a real dearth of leaders, and I think the people who are leaders you couldn't really make captain because they're not going to be here that long. You know, so Koz for a bit of consistency, but if he is here next year, he won't be here the year after. Socrates is someone who I'd probably make a captain, but he's not going to be here for another 2 or 3 years, so there's no point in doing that one. It's a short term. And then I look at younger players who will be here quite a while. And my first instant thoughts on that were Bellerin and Holding. You know, lads who understand what it's like to play for Arsenal. They actually care about fans' opinion, feel like what it's a bit like to be a fan. You know, and they can relay that to these foreign lads, you know, how big a club and sort of how proud you should be to represent it. But then I thought, are they captain material? And I thought, no, probably not. To me, they're sort of more, I'd have them as young ambassadors for the club going out with charity work and things like that for the next 3 to 5, 10 years than actual captains. Like I say, it raised a completely different, a completely new sort of something to think about for me. You know, I was aware that we don't have many leaders, but when I really sat and thought about it, I thought, Jesus, this isn't good. You know, and obviously another reason why we're a bit rudderless when it comes to, you know, big parts of the season and important, you know, tipping points, and we don't really have anybody that you imagine, you know, like a Stuart Pearce or a Tony Adams type of person that's really grabbing all these lads by the scruff of their neck and saying, fucking look at them fans, look at them. You know, think about how much money they paid to get here, you know, like the Europa League final. Go and take a look at them and understand how much it means to go and work the next day, you know, in your shitty job and getting bantered by your work colleagues that are Spurs fans or, you know, or whatever down that road. You know, somebody that really instills in them what it means to be a fan and represent Arsenal. You know, and the old, you play for the badge on the front and, you know, play for the name on the front and people remember the name on the back. You know, that I don't see many people like that in our squad at all, so it worried me, to be honest. And just it's just another one that, to add to this pile of things that are pretty, you know, severe at the club at the moment that, you know, aren't going to be fixed overnight. Next one, where are we up to? Ozil's wedding. Do I have any thoughts on it? No. I couldn't care less. I think it's lovely for him that he's got married. You know, I don't really have any questions about him off pitch, to be honest. You know, them people started going about his charity work, and, you know, he's not the first rich, you know, millionaire that does stuff for charity because it makes him look good. You know, you get a bit of tax relief, but also you're just doing it because it's a nice thing to do. And I'd much rather those nice things happen than they don't happen at all. You know, whether someone's doing it for tax relief purposes or whatever. So I don't really see that as a reason to start digging the guy out. And his wedding, it's his wedding, lovely thing. How people turn that into another thing to beat him over the head with, what it said to me is it's another thing that is my biggest problem with him. Is not him as a player, it's this circus that surrounds him. We've got no football going on, and it's still causing a faction of you're either Ozil in or Ozil out. You're either a fanboy or you're anti-Ozil. And this is why I want to see him gone, because I just can't cope with it week in, week out. Just people acting like teenagers online, bickering about this guy. It's fucking embarrassing, and it really takes away from what we're trying to achieve as a club, in my opinion. So I'm just sick of it. So yeah, as soon as I saw it, I just sort of muted Ozil for the weekend because I've just got no real interest in it. But good luck to you, lad, and I hope he starts putting more time into his marriage than he does Fortnite, or that's how long his marriage might last. But that's that one. Yeah, sorry, I'm not going into that much, but I just don't think it's something really worth talking about or relevant. So let's get on to the last bit, transfer bullshit. First one, Turner. A lot of you guys know I think he should be our first choice for a left back. He's the right age, right money, right profile. He can defend as well as he can attack. He's great at both. This is a guy, what most people don't realise, because I think a lot of people don't really care about Scottish football, is this guy keeps Robertson out of the Scottish team on occasions. And Robertson is someone who I think is one of the best players in the Prem at the moment, and he's definitely top 5 left back in the world. I struggle to think a few better that I'd rather have in my sort of world 11 at the moment. God, if we can get this guy in, we should be making it happen. And I don't really care who leaves to make that happen. He'd be a huge part of future, progress as a squad and moving forward for the next 3, 5, 10 years. So, God, I hope that's one. But I think a lot of this is sort of people putting 2 and 2 together and coming out with 9. A lot of media know a lot of us fancy this guy. The club have scouted him in the past over the last few years. That's no secret. And then this stuff about bookies odds. A lot of you know I like a bet, and his odds haven't changed. And once again, guys, you're going off somebody just saying something. Well, these people who are saying that his odds have changed, why haven't they messaged Sky Bet or whoever and said, can you send me a screenshot of what his odds were the day the window first opened and what they are now? Because from what I saw, they haven't changed at all. He was 6-1 with the bookie I use before the window opened, and as soon as the window opened, he went odds on. Only fractionally odds on, but he went odds on, and they haven't changed since. So I just don't know why you guys buy it. Again, you go off what your eyes see rather than asking for some substance to it. I think you're just so desperate for something to happen, you'll believe fucking anything. But if I said to you, right, well, he's signing tomorrow, you'll all tell me I'm full of shit. So I don't know where you go with it. But I think it's a lot of, they know we're interested as a club. They know the fans that would love for him to come in. As it's obviously a big problem for us at left back. Then Ossie Tutu, this talk of that they're interested in him on loan, which I think would be a fabulous move, because he's one that I do think could step up, but I'd like to see it happen at somebody else's club before we risk it in our first team lineup. And I think that'd be a great move for him there. A tough league, but playing for easily the best team in it. So it's not like he'd be getting tonked in -4 snow and freezing cold winds every week. And lose a bit of his head sort of. So I think it's just a bit of a mixture of loads of bullshit and getting all put together to come up with, fabricate something that might have a bit of legs. But until I sort of hear the club or a bid gets made, that's more in hope than actually it realistically happening. Although it would be my number one choice, and I think it'd be a fabulous signing for sort of 20 to 25 million. Saliba. Oh God, this was like this was one of a couple of daggers in the heart I took this weekend. News that his agent had been in up the road from me here in Manchester. God, that really makes me feel sick to the bottom of my stomach, because I think that obviously what's come out is the sort of numbers of what they want, which is something we could afford. This kid is a real player, and he's another one that could help us build the future of the club for 5 to 10 years. You know, he's a real leader as well for his young age. But news that his agent's in Manchester, that to me says he's going to Man City, or they're pushing around the idea of him going there. You know, and they would be capable of loaning him back, which is what they, you know, from the rumours, that's what they want, is to get him back on loan for a year. City could do that, we can't afford to. I'd be so disappointed if he goes to Man City. And it'd make me question him as a player, to be honest. You know, although I can see why you'd go to Man City, because you're probably going to get a winner's medal in your first season of being there in some form of competition. You know, are you going to be in that first team, you know, in the next couple of years? Well, they've got Stones, they've got Laporte, who are both playing great. So you're not going to move either of them two out of the lineup. So it'd make me question him as a player. I think it'd be much better for him to come to a club like us, where he'd actually get genuine minutes in the first team. You know, and as big a name, you know, we're a bigger name historically, but not current in terms of football. We're way down the scale compared to Man City, but I think if he wants to be involved in a project where he'd be an integral part of it, it'd be better coming to us. But Man City, it's a big low. You know, like I've just said about Carrasco and China, you know, it's hard at 18 to turn down, but you've got to just, you know, you look at the evidence of young players that break through at Man City, they're few and far between. You know, Foden's getting a few games, and Zinchenko's probably been the main one who has got games. You know, and then you look at Sancho, who left, and, you know, he's flourished since leaving there. So it's a tricky one. Like I say, it was one or two big daggers in the heart for me, which that was one. You know, the thought of him going to Man City. There's not been many players we've been talked about at the minute that I'm really excited about that have been mentioned with another Premier League club. So this is the first one, and it stung my heart a bit, I'm not going to lie. And then the second one was Xhaka being interviewed, you know, after the England-Switzerland game, and him coming out and saying, oh, I've just signed I've got 4 years left on my contract. My family and I are happy in London. I'm going nowhere. I don't know where this is coming from. God, and I was like, you know, kitchen knife to the chest, and, you know, wiggled around a little bit, you know, and prodding organs. It hurt. You know, it's very similar to what Mustafi came out and said the other week. Pretty much exactly the same. God, it's not reasons to be cheerful, is it? Unless you're big fans of the pair, but if you are, you're going to have to accept that we're going to finish 4th to 6th again next year, if we're lucky. God, just get that taste out of my mouth. I just keep saying his name. God, just not good. Then the next one that's a bit more of a positive, Anderson and Prayet. You know, apparently we've come out and rubbished it. You know, that's not come from the club again. That's just somebody saying we've rubbished it, that apparently, you know, has somebody in it and in at the club, which I don't believe. But I wouldn't be shocked if we maybe have rubbished it. As an outward projection to everybody else is, you know, well, we can't afford this, we can't do this. This is this is more than what the budget is we've got. But, you know, if we're actually doing a deal with them, then it doesn't matter who we're sending a message out to elsewhere, as long as they know what's going on. You know, us and Sampdoria, who gives a fuck what anyone else thinks. You know, and now the news has come out that, you know, they want 55 million euros. I thought that was pounds sterling. Was in my head. I thought we'd have to pay. I'd say they're both worth 25 to 30 million each currently, and that's because they're not in the limelight. You know, of like the Premier League or Spain. You know, they're over in Italy. Which is, you know, getting a bit resurgent, but it's not the Serie A of 10 years ago. In terms of competitiveness, you know, and Sampdoria isn't a big club over there, so, you know, it's a big profile change if they were to come here. And I think very much like the Torreira deal, I think that if we could get these two guys in for 55 million euros, we've had it well away. Even if they didn't turn out to be brilliant, I don't see how we'd ever get less than that for these two guys, because I do think they've got the talent to be really important, influential members of our first team, never mind our squad. You know, I would happily see Anderson take Mustafi's slot, and I would more than happily see Prayet take Xhaka's. So this is a deal that I do think's got a lot of legs, and there's a lot of smoke here without there being any fire. So this is one that I do think will go over the line. If that number's right, I think we've been mad not to press the big red button on that one, because I don't see us getting a centre back and a midfielder of that quality for that little money. I just don't. So yeah, I'm hopeful on that one. I'm going to give that some legs. Claude Maurice, that this has stepped up again. That there's more than us interested in him, which doesn't surprise me. For the number that's been bounded round, sort of 10 to 15 million, it's not a lot, is it? He'd pick us over other teams. And I thought about that, and I thought it doesn't really shock me, because if you look at where he could play on the of a sort of fluid front three, or as an out-and-out winger or a striker. He probably would be close to getting straight in our first team. His direct competition at wing is Mkhitaryan and Iwobi, and if he's got anything about him, he must be looking at it going, I can house both of those two in that first team. No two ways about it. So I think we're as historically as a big name of a club, and a big draw in that aspect. Although we don't have Champions League and we're not about to win the Prem. From that point of view, I could easily see why he'd want to come to our club. Definitely, we are a great club. We're a great run club. We're known for giving youth a chance. So, I can definitely see there being good legs in this one. And for that, so if we can get him and Martinelli for less than 20 million quid, I think that's cracking business. And it's more continuation of what happened in the last window, where we're doing really good, shrewd moves that can help secure the future of the club. And not just in the short term, in the long term as well. Perisic, his agents come out talking, and they're looking to get rid. He's someone that I'd have been all for getting in on loan as a short-term fix. At Christmas when we got Suarez. Now he's someone that I definitely wouldn't want at the club. Not because he's not talented. I just think it's going down this business route again of making business sense as well as football sense. Do I think he'd massively improve our first team? Yes. Do I think that he would help us as a club moving forward? No, not in anything other than next season, because he's someone who'd have, he's getting on in age. He'd have not really much resale value. He'd cost us a pretty penny. His wages will be pretty high, and that would really signify to me that we're not moving forward if we're making signings like him. With, how many times have I said it to you guys? We've got to stop putting plasters on broken limbs. It's time to put a cast on it that lasts the duration of your healing. And our healing's going to take 2 or 3 seasons for me. So no, he's not one that helps me, see the club getting taken forward at all. The big talking point at the moment is obviously Carrasco. Talking about they just want to recoup the sort of 25 mil that they've laid out on him. If we can get this guy in for 25 million, it's a fucking bargain for me. Because like I say, I think if he'd have stayed at Atletico, they'd want double that easily. And obviously the instant comparison people are drawing up are him and Fraser. Who would you have, him or Fraser? And I'm sure there's a lot of people that would have Fraser over him because he's got EPL experience, but not for me. He's much more of a one-trick pony than Carrasco is. He's got way more aspects of his game that would suit us. Going down the ball carrier route, he's much more of a dribbler, 2-footed player. With lightning pace that can open up games, get in the holes. And create stuff. Whereas Fraser, I think if it's just nudged out to him and he gets to wing it in, he'd be more used to us. But we don't play like that. And he's been great in a Bournemouth side. I don't think he'd have as good a season in an Arsenal side, because although we might create more chances, not in the way he plays football. Whereas we play against teams that sit a lot deeper. And Aubameyang didn't score a headed goal this season. I don't think so. I don't think his style of play would suit us. As impressive as he's been this year, I'm not sure he'll replicate it next year. And I don't think he'd suit our style of play. That's the only. It's no discredit to him, because I think he's a cracking little player. I just don't think he suits us, and it's why I definitely. And I think just Carrasco's got a much higher ceiling. I think sort of this is probably as good as Fraser gets, really. Whereas I think Carrasco could really kick on. Like I say, I think he'll be hungry, more than hungry, to come back to Europe and prove himself that, you fuckers that think I'm a duffer that went over there for money, watch this. Euro's coming up, and another World Cup cycle. He's got plenty of reasons to want to prove himself, so I'd much rather have Carrasco out of the two. And I think that's pretty much it, guys. It's just on the Carrasco thing, and somebody mentioned how much of a Sven signing do you think that is, seeing as he was pushing the deal in the last window? I do think it's a Sven type signing. I do think that it's one that he's put the name forward. It's a bit of an odd one in that situation, because it's a tricky one with scouts, whereas I've been a salesman in the past, and it's sort of you work as a salesman for a company, and then if you decide to leave, they go, right, well, your little black book of contacts, that stays with us. That's our property, not yours. You know, here's your box of stuff, and it's got your pot plant in it. You know, your picture of your wife and your kids, and your stress ball, and your paperweight, and your favourite mouse mat. You know, and they tell you to leave your little black book behind. I'm pretty sure they can't do that with him. But obviously the targets he discussed while he was here with the club, I wouldn't be shocked if we're trying to get all of them in, or most of them, or that's the nucleus of what we're looking at in terms of signings this window. So I think he is a big part of him. And I think probably some of the others are as well. Maybe, you know, the Claude Maurices, the Salibas, you know, Anderson and Pryor. Maybe these are all names he was looking at. Who really cares now he's gone? But as long as he's left us, you know, a list of 10 or 20 people to go out, he served a purpose in the short time he was here. Just on the signings as well, like I say with Fraser, I don't think that's got any legs, guys. I didn't think it at the start, and I still don't think it now. Manounier, I told you, would go cold because I don't think we had any real interest in him, and I'd still stand by that. I think that was more agent talk again, trying to drum up, you know, maybe pit us off against United for him. I don't know, but I don't. Just think about it logically, guys. Why would we go out and buy, you know, an experienced right back that cost us good money on decent wages when we've got a brilliant right back already? And he's not going to come here to sit and know that when Hector comes back, he takes his place. So it was a complete non-starter for me, this one. And I feel Fraser was a little. I think we've had some interest in Fraser, but you know, what do you want for him? All right, thanks. Well, you know, I'll ring you back if I think any more. That's where I stand on that one. I don't think we've really pushed that one around too much. So that's it, guys. That's all my talk. Hope you've enjoyed. Hope it's not been too painful. And like I say, guys, please, you know, just for one click of the button, you know, give me a thumbs up, make a comment, please subscribe. You know, I've got a little goal I want to hit on the subscription numbers and support, so please do that. And if you're seeing this through Twitter, please give it a retweet and you know, quote the tweet if you've got a question you want to, you know, me have a think about, or somebody you want to get involved next year for next season, helping me answer them. So that's it from me, guys. Have an absolutely fabulous rest of your Monday. Signing out.